Well, as the saying goes, heavy is the head that wears the crown, but as the saying also goes, it's twice as sweet to repeat. What's up, y'all? It's Cool Hand Steve, and I'm back with another YouTube video, and I'm here to introduce a new series that I call Cool Hand Steve's Wild World of Sports. This will be Volume 1. So, of course, in this episode, I have to start things off by shouting out the back-to-back champion Dodgers by winning the World Series for the second year in a row, beating the Blue Jays 5-4 in 11 innings a couple weeks ago in Toronto to win the World Series. Now, if you saw my preview, you saw my NBA preview, you saw I was wearing the Dodgers jersey. That's because I am a Dodgers fan. That is my #1 baseball team. And, they made me sweat for it. Going back to Toronto down 3-2, it was looking pretty grim. And a lot of different times, I thought the Blue Jays could have pulled that one out. But the Dodgers, showing their guile, their experience, and their talent, were able to pull through and win the World Series by the skin of their teeth, but they won it. Now, over the last couple of weeks, I've seen a lot of discourse saying that the Blue Jays were indeed the better team and probably should have won the World Series. And there's some stats to back that. I mean, you look at it, the Blue Jays did outscore the Dodgers in the series by about 7 or 8 runs. And if you look at the 3 wins they had, they were rather dominant. Whereas the Dodgers, you had the Game 3 18-inning game. Game 6 was a close game. Game 2 was a close game. And then Game 7 obviously went 11 innings. That was a one-run game. So I guess there's some merit to that. But there's a certain part of me that doesn't really like that sort of talk. It just sounds like loser talk to me, if I'm just being completely honest. Sure, we can make that excuse that they could have been the better team. But they had the chances to win. Bases loaded, bottom of the 9th in Game 7 on your home field with 1 out, and you didn't come through. And there's a couple other instances like that. The base running gap in Game 6 to end the game. You can't do stuff like that if you want to call yourself a champion. And meanwhile, you take it on the flip side. You look at the Dodgers, the clutch hitting in Game 3. Shohei had the 2 home runs in Game 3 that were huge. The second one tied the game. You had Freddie Freeman coming through again in the World Series for the second year in a row with the game-winning home run in Game 3. You look at that amazing catch in the outfield in Game 6, in Game 7 by the Dodgers. Even Game 6, Will Smith, timely home runs in Game 2. Timely hits in Game 6. And then, of course, Game 7, Rojas coming through with a huge home run tonight. The catch that I mentioned earlier, right? Will Smith again and coming through in Game 7. Moments like that, and of course, Yamamoto, the undisputed World Series MVP, in my view, totally deserved. He saved their season with great pitching Game 2, great pitching Game 6, and he got him out that jam in the 9th in Game 7. So those are the things that champions do, and the Dodgers did more of that, to me, than the Blue Jays did. And that brings up a whole nother point that is really a bigger point. I can make it a video in and of itself, and that's these people who make their sports analysis based off of box score watching, right? Just looking at the stats and just saying, well, if this team scored more than that team, then they should have won. And it doesn't work like that. This is why y'all have to watch the games, and you have to watch everything that's going on, the little nuances and things like that may seem mundane to the naked eye, but it makes all the difference in the world in winning and losing a game. And again, the Dodgers did more of that, and this is the situation they're in. But again, that's not to bash the Blue Jays. They are a great team, and they're a young team. They'll be right back at it next year, I'm pretty sure, even though it's hard to get back to a World Series, much less win another World Series, which makes what the Dodgers are doing so impressive. But great year by the Blue Jays. They were pretty much the #1 team in the American League, and they showed it in the playoffs. They dominated the Yankees. They had to come back in similar fashion that the Dodgers did on them to beat the Mariners in the ALCS. And, they had the 3-2 lead on the Dodgers. Those games, especially games 4 and 5, and game 1 too, just dominant performances. And you see the talent on that Blue Jays team, both pitching and hitting wise. So I have no doubts they'll be right back at it next year. And of course, as expected, LA showed out for their Dodgers in the championship parade that following Monday. I'm gonna tell you, I've said it 1,000 times, LA is a Lakers town and a Dodgers town first and foremost. And I would say USC football, I would throw that in there as a third. All the rest of the sports that's there just kind of seems secondary. And you notice that when the other teams win championships versus when the Lakers win championships and the Dodgers win championships. You look at their championship parades, it's just a clear difference, right? It seems like the whole city's unified at least for that moment, when those two teams win the championship. It's just a clear difference. They showed up and showed out at the parade. It was a great time. I wasn't there, but it was a great time. It seemed like a great time through the TV. And so, yeah, great showing by LA. Now, as we pivot over to the football side, just continue prayers and thoughts up to the family of Marshawn Kneeland, who tragically took his life back on November 6th. It was literally a couple days after the Monday Night Football game where he scored a touchdown against the Arizona Cardinals. And, it's just another tragic reminder that we must value each and every single day. We must value those that love us and care for us. And it's another tragic reminder that, a lot of times what you see on the outside, somebody may appear to be happy and be joyous, but that may not always be what's going on the inside. It may be a raging bout that's going on the inside that may bubble up to the surface, and it may be too late if that person doesn't seek the help that's out there. So I definitely want to encourage anybody who's listening to this to always make sure that you know that there's help out there and that there's somebody in your corner. It may be somebody that you don't even know, but there's something out there. There's always somebody out there that's willing to help you. So please don't be afraid to speak up and to seek out that help. And of course, all last week throughout Sunday's games and the Thursday games and whatnot, the Monday game as well, there was a moment of silence before the game in honor of Marshawn Kneeland, and also Western Michigan, his alma mater. They carried out his jersey before the game. They're all wearing like the 99 jerseys and stuff like that, just paying a great homage to him. And that was just really cool and really neat to see them come together during the tragic time such as this. The Cowboys didn't play last week. Obviously, they don't play until this next Monday against the Raiders in Vegas on Monday night. So we'll see how that team really responds to this unforeseen tragedy. So flipping back over to the football side of things on the field, you look at the AFC, you look at their standings right now, and you got three teams at 8-2 that are surprises to some degree or another. The Broncos, the Colts, the huge surprise, and obviously the Patriots, the other huge surprise in the AFC. And then you got kind of the Bills kind of lurking at 6-3. The Steelers are still on top of the AFC North. But here come those Baltimore Ravens. They had a bad start to this year, but Lamar Jackson's back. They've looked more like their dominant selves the past couple of games. And look now, they're only one game back. I don't really know who's taking charge at the top of the conference, and obviously the defending champs, the Chiefs, only at 5-4, and they had a whole week to kind of stew on that ugly loss they had up in Buffalo a couple weeks ago. I thought after that win by the Bills, I thought that Buffalo would kind of seize and take control of the AFC, and they laid an absolute lead egg last week in Miami. I don't know what that was all about. That game wasn't even close. So now you got a whole situation where you got these three teams at 8-2 that people still kind of have their questions about. They're young teams, teams that are led by quarterbacks that aren't all that proven. And so we'll have to kind of see who pulls through and who's really going to take the reins and who takes the charge, because right now I'm just not too sure. Especially once you consider that you look at the Patriots last game the other night against the Jets. It was kind of a sloppy win, kind of typical Thursday night game. You look at the Broncos, they played the Thursday before against the Raiders. That was an even sloppier win. It was 10-7, something like that. Just a sloppier win. I mean, their defense is really good, but that's to be expected with the Broncos lately. So, but their offense left a lot to be desired against the Raiders. And then, you look at the Colts. I like what they did. They kind of had to scrap to get the win against the Falcons. And obviously, that's a big get getting Sauce Gardner from the Jets, getting the lockdown corner on one side of the field. But then I think of, certain performances like they had against the Steelers a couple weeks ago. And I think, don't really know if they're ready for prime time yet. We'll just might have to wait till the playoffs to see that, because they're running away with the South. They're not getting much division. They're not getting much challenge with that division there. So we'll just have to wait and see till the playoffs, really. But it looks like they'll make it. So now I flip it over to what I consider is the better of the two conferences, that being, of course, the NFC. And, you got three teams at the top, obviously the defending champions, the Eagles, at 7-2. And they got two teams in the West, the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks, who have been running through the last couple of opponents specifically. They've looked very, very impressive. They're also 7-2. And then you got Tampa Bay at top at 6-3 in the South. That's a bigger league than what it looks like, because I just don't trust the other three teams in the South. Not the Panthers, definitely not the Saints, and not the Falcons either. And then you got the best division, to me, still in football, even though it's not quite as dominant as it was last year. Of course, in the North, you got the Lions, and then you got the surprising Chicago Bears at 6-3, and then the Packers are right behind them, 5-3-1. And the Vikings are still in it. They're 4-5 as well. And based off of their game earlier in Philadelphia this year, and until it's proven different, I got to go with the defending champs as the number one team in the NFC right now, and the team to beat, of course. They're a bit more vulnerable than they were last year, to me. I don't think they're as explosive on offense. And then you have this whole A.J. Brown thing. He's going back and forth with the coaching staff for Jalen Hurts or the front office and this and that. Oh, is he going to get traded? I just seen some things recently today saying, A.J. Brown might be traded, or should he be traded, and this and that. So that's a whole thing within itself. But regardless of the fact, they're still 7-2. They're still on top. You have to give in to them until then. The Rams have the capability to beat them, I fully believe. But I don't know if they seem to play better in Philadelphia, weirdly enough, than they do in LA. And I think part of that is just, I don't think they have a great home field advantage in LA. You go to a lot of those LA games, or if you see them on TV, it's kind of like what it is with the Cowboys. You have a lot of fans from outside of LA that go to LA that are fans of other teams that go to these games. And the Rams are still kind of establishing themselves in LA within the culture and just trying to establish themselves as the teams in the NFL to be in LA. And I don't think they're really quite there yet. They're more popular than they were when they first got there in 2016, 2017, but I just don't think they have the home field advantage that they need compared to some of these other teams like in Seattle or Philadelphia, who are just crazy about their teams. But yeah, if I had to choose a team to dethrone the Eagles in the NFC, I would go with the Rams because they've been so close the last couple of years. They are supposed to play the Lions. The Eagles are on Sunday night, I believe, this week. So that could be the other team that could get them. They couldn't get their chance last year because they got upset by Washington in the divisional round. Had they won that game would have been in Detroit, the NFC Championship game last year between the Lions and the Eagles. I don't know how that would have gone, but they'll get their shot. And now, of course, we got to flip it over to the NBA side. And first off, shout out to the Detroit Pistons. I kind of said they're a team to watch, and I said Cade Cunningham is a player to watch for MVP voting. And look what they've done so far. They won 9 games in a row. They are 11-2, best record in the Eastern Conference so far this year. And they haven't been off to a start this hot since I think 2005, which was the last year they made the finals. So I don't know if that's an omen for what's to come in May and June, but it's clear they've improved, and it's clear they're playing very, very well. Shout out to Detroit. And then you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, it's kind of mostly going the way I kind of thought they would go early on. The Knicks are kind of coasting along. They're doing well. They're not doing Detroit levels of well, OKC, but they're doing well. Same thing with Cleveland. I think those two teams will be at it at the end still. Atlanta's playing well. They're the team that I thought was going to do pretty well. Milwaukee's doing pretty well. Giannis still doing his thing. So that's going on. I told y'all look out for Toronto. They're 7-5. They're doing pretty well. And obviously Philadelphia, for the most part, Embiid's still been here and there, but he's been healthier than at least I thought he was going to be. And they still haven't had Paul George back. They haven't had Jared McCain back as well. So we have to see the Sixers at full strength to fully evaluate them. But BJ Edgecombe, their rookies, look great. He's going to be in the running for Rookie of the Year. And, of course, Tyrese Maxey's doing his thing. He's Tyrese Maxey, the All-Star. So Philly looks pretty good, too. And, of course, the other way I thought it was going to go was that Boston and Indiana, without their superstar players, were going to struggle. Lo and behold, this is what we're seeing. The Celtics are kind of middling along. They're 6-7, so I said they're going to fight for a playoff spot, and they may still do that. Now, the Pacers, on the other hand, really, really struggling right now. Without Tyrese Halliburton, they've had other injuries too. Miles Turner hasn't played. The other guys like Nembhard and Mathurin, they've been kind of here and there, in and out of the lineup, and you kind of see that reflected in the record. Also, shout out to the Atlanta Hawks too. They're another team I thought could contend for a playoff spot, and they're 8-5, I believe. 8-4, 8-5, one of those two. So they're doing pretty well too, which I said before the season they needed to if they want to keep Trae Young around. So far, so good. So let me flip it over to the Western Conference. And it almost seems like it's not even fair. As well as the Nuggets are doing, and they look great. Jokic, to me, is the best basketball player in the world. The Rockets got to a start that I thought the Rockets are going to get off to. The Spurs will look great, and my Lakers will look great. But, man, the Thunder, they may be even better than they were last year. Without their second-best player, their second-best player in Jalen Williams so far. He hasn't even played yet this year. what they're going to look like, where they're going to look like when he comes back. All those bench players that they've had, all those top draft picks that they've had, those guys are really coming along. They're really developing well, and they're really complimenting Shea. Chet Holmgren's taking his game to another level. He may be an all-star this year. So, boy, Oklahoma City is just firing on all cylinders right now. It is going to be even tougher to beat this team come playoff time. Now, if you want to look at surprises so far in the West, one I gotta mention, the Portland Trailblazers. They're 6-6. Without Chauncey Billups, of course, the whole gambling scandal that's going on, this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. But you have Tiago Splitters stepping in to be the head coach, the interim head coach, and they're doing pretty well. You know, Shaedon Sharpe is balling. They got some other guys. Drew Holiday has really provided steadying force for that young team to really go off of. So they're doing pretty well, 6-6. And then, of course, another one's the Phoenix Suns. They're 8-5. That combo, Jalen Green hasn't played all that much this year, but when he and Devin Booker look really good. They kind of moved Devin Booker to the point, so where they can have the ball in his hands pretty much all the time. He's a very good playmaker, and obviously he's a great scorer. And so that's a really good lineup. You know, Grayson Allen, guys like that, Mark Williams, Royce O'Neal, they look really good right now. So shout out to the Suns. And then, of course, number 3, I gotta say it's my Lakers. Now, of course, if you've seen my YouTube short that I posted recently, I've kind of broached the subject already, but how well the Lakers are looking without LeBron. And let's get into it. I mean, 9-4. They won a game yesterday against New Orleans. Now, they did, of course, have early in the week that ugly loss to the Thunder. But right now, like I said, the Thunder are doing this to pretty much everybody right now. So not a whole lot of shame in that without LeBron. Now, of course, at some point, yes, they're going to need LeBron back because he can still provide elite offense, if nothing else. But that Thunder loss did expose one thing, and it's just not a great defensive team right now. And that's going to be my main concern going into the playoffs, because as great as offense sells tickets. It's going to get people buttons in the seats, and it's going to win games in the regular season, all these great things. But if you want to win a championship, you look at a lot of these championship teams, a lot of them play at least average defense, and a lot of them really play elite defense. And that's just something that the Lakers are going to need. But they're off to a really good start right now. DeAndre Ayton, he was never a defensive stopper, so you just kind of have to know what you're getting with him. And that's what we're getting. He's getting pretty good offense. You know, I think he's averaging around 16 points, 8 rebounds. That's about around what I expected. Of course, Austin Reeves has looked amazing this year. And then Luka, whatever he did in the offseason, he needs to keep on doing that in the offseasons to come if he really, really wants to reach his potential as an NBA player, as great as he's already been. But he looks fantastic, absolutely fantastic. If I had to do an early MVP, which I don't like doing this early in the season, it's probably either Joker or it's Luka. They may have to tie for it. And also, quick shout out to the Spurs. You know, Victor Wembanyama, obviously what he's done in the offseason is translated into his early season success for himself and for the team. They've looked fantastic. They just got De'Aaron Fox back. They don't have, I think, Dylan Harper. He's missed the last couple of games with the injury, but he should be back soon. You know, with Castle and all those other young players that they do have on their squad, it's really paid off so far. And I like their coach too. He's very Coach Popovich coded, may I say, but just obviously a much younger version. So you can tell Coach Pop still has his imprint on that team, and it's really paying dividends so far. So I like to see how this progresses for San Antonio later on this season. One more quick thing to cover before I get out here. It looks like Jake Paul has pivoted. He was supposed to fight Tank Davis literally yesterday, but that fight kind of fell through. The talks kind of fell through, the contracts and everything like that. So it looks like he has pivoted now, and he's going to fight Anthony Joshua, and he's going to do it December 19th. It's going to be streaming live on Netflix, and it's supposed to take place in Miami. Now, it's not. There's some reports that's conflicting. You know, some of them said that it is finalized. Some have said that it's not yet. So once I get something from like ESPN or something like that, that's when I'll know it's official. But it looks like it is going to happen December 19th in Miami on Netflix. That's a ballsy fight by Jake Paul. He's mostly fighting, you know, your Mike Tyson, who's almost 60, and, you know, other MMA fighters and this and that and the third. And he's kind of taking a huge hit on his rep because of it. So this is a huge step up. This fight, from what I'm told, from what I've seen, is gonna count on their records, on their official records. It's not gonna be an exhibition like most of his other fights. So yeah, like I said, huge step up for Jake Paul. he believes, obviously, that he can beat Anthony Joshua. A lot of people would disagree with that, and a lot of people would probably say something along the lines of, if Jake Paul even lands a glove on Anthony Joshua, like, his whole credibility is shot. So, and I don't know the payday is, but knowing Jake Paul's fights, I'm sure that payday is lovely. Very, very lovely. But that being said, guys, that's going to do it for Cool Hand Steve's Wild World of Sports. This is volume 1. Expect a lot more volumes to come in the near future. I thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. Till next time, Cool Hand Steve out. Peace.